People who support Kamala Harris's latest proposal to enact federal price controls are simply economically illiterate.
Bidenomics is working.
Bidenomics.
It's a term we're very proud of, I must tell you, because Bidenomics is working.
Yeah, this great economy, one bad.
Wait a second. Is Kamala Harris giving away $30,000 to illegal aliens to buy houses? Oh, but wait, guys, it gets so much worse than that.
Taxpayer-funded group is offering $30,000 to new home buyers. Lauren, you cannot apply if you're an American citizen. What's with that?
Why would an American citizen apply for a taxpayer-funded program to get $30,000 for a new home?
Wait a second. $30,000 for a new home, and this deal is funded by taxpayers here in America, but American citizens can't apply? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And this is what Kamala Harris wants to do across the United States of America.
I mean, it's wild. The group is called Hacienda Community Development Corporation.
Hey guys, comment down below if you support giving $30,000 to non-Americans to buy houses. Just comment down like yes or no down below.
They offer payment assistance in Oregon to DACA recipients, asylees, green card holders, basically any non-U.S. citizen.
Wow.
This is state-sponsored discrimination.
These are the people who make me proud to say that I am an American. They are the best of America. And despite what some would have you think, we are not so different from our neighbors. When a house is on fire, we don't ask about the homeowner's race or religion. We don't wonder who their partner is or how they voted. No, we just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady, well, we try to get that cat out too.
Stuart, that's what it is. I mean, it's.
This is discrimination. This is giving America away, guys. And we've already talked about the fact that China is buying up an ungodly amount of farmland and real estate right here in America. They're giving away America, guys. And this is what Donald Trump is trying to prevent from continuing to happen. In fact, Donald Trump says that it will stop the moment he walks into office.
It's crazy. That's their goal. They want to open up housing and the American dream to non-U.S. citizens.
Now, I want you guys to think about this for a second. Okay. Just think about how expensive. You think rent's high is now. You think the cost of buying a new house is high now. When companies like this, when programs like this come out and they subsidize the cost of housing for folks, especially for non-Americans, you think that the cost of living is high right now, guys. And you guys can comment down below, how much was housing? How much was like a starter house like 10 years ago? Just comment down below. In my area, a starter house about 10 years ago was probably about $200,000, maybe $250,000. That was a good starter home. Now, a starter home is probably closer to $500,000, $500,000. Maybe if you're lucky, $450,000. And guys, it will only get tremendously more expensive with programs like this, and fewer actual American citizens are going to be able to own real estate because it'll just be too expensive.
I guess that's the reason why we have an open border, because eventually these folks will vote and vote Democrat because they're the people who let them in. That's what this is about.
Part of me wants to say crazy things happen in Oregon, but I think this will go far beyond Oregon.
Oh, absolutely.
There is a critical shortage of houses across the United States, particularly in Oregon.
Freedom isn't free. America is an ongoing project. It requires commitment. It requires being open to the hard work and the heart work of democracy. And every now and then, it requires standing up to life's bullies. I know this. I've lived in Mississippi, in Tennessee, in Wisconsin, Maryland, Indiana, Florida, Hawaii, Colorado, California, and sweet home Chicago, Illinois.
And then they're giving $30K to non-taxpayers.
Wow. So you already have a housing shortage. And this is why Kamala Harris is saying, oh, I'm going to build 3 million houses. Well, first of all, Kamala Harris has already wasted like somewhere between $5 and $7 billion and somehow managed to only build like 7 charging stations for electric vehicles. Do you really trust Kamala Harris to be able to pull off an operation such as manufacturing or building, constructing 3 million new homes? I can't. I don't buy it. But here's the thing, guys. When you have a flood of money, we've already seen this with stimulus checks, stimulus packages, the PPP loans, the massive child tax credits. When the economy was flooded with all sorts of federal money, the liquidity had essentially overwhelmed the United States, and everyone and their mom had a crap ton of money. We saw asset inflation, and we saw a tremendous amount of inflation in the cost of pretty much everything. Most people are seeing a lot of the resulting inflation in the cost of groceries. But guess what, guys? When you have a shortage of places to live, when you have a shortage of housing, what do you think is going to happen to the cost of real estate? If you don't own a house today, guys, the way we're headed, if Donald Trump doesn't get in office, I'm willing to bet that we're going to get to a point where it's going to be worse than California. I mean, look at what Nancy Pelosi's nephew, Governor Gavin Newsom, has pulled off in the state of California. You pretty much can't get a starter home in the state of California unless you have at least $1 million for a 2-bedroom house. Can you imagine living in, Alabama, South Carolina, Middle America, Midwest, or the Midwest America, and finding that a starter home is now $1 million? Well, guys, this is what's going to happen when we have progressive ideologies promoted across the United States. We're going to see continued hyperinflation and ultra aggressive asset inflation across the board. The rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. But the Democrats won't tell you that. The Democrats will not tell you that. I don't know how many of you guys have seen Oprah on the DNC yesterday, but she tried to convince America that the Democrats have a plan that will even the playing field. Well, guys, I got to ask you, you've had Democrats running the country for the last 3.5 years. Do you really feel like the playing field has actually been made more level since they've been in charge? Let me know, guys.
Yeah, which will raise the price of houses.
For everybody else. But in Oregon, but I think this will go far beyond Oregon. There is a critical shortage of houses across the United States, particularly in Oregon. And then they're giving $30K to non-taxpayers.
Yeah, which will raise the price of houses.
For everybody else.
Pathetic. All right.
Shocking announcement, guys. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for always making sure that you're still subscribed. And I also want to thank you guys tremendously for always getting the word out and for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter.
People who support Kamala Harris's latest proposal to enact federal price controls are simply economically illiterate. And let me tell you why. America has actually tried this before. Almost exactly 53 years ago in 1971, then President Richard Nixon enacted price controls to help combat the inflation Americans were suffering through at that point in time. What it led to was ranchers who refused to ship their cattle to markets. They were drowning their own chickens, and customers were actually clearing out supermarket shelves. It caused more problems than it actually solved. Now, Kamala Harris would have you believe that corporations are engaged in corporate greed by charging individuals too much for the goods that we all need. But the issue really is inflation was caused by the federal government. The federal government spends more than it earns, and then all they do is print more money to make up the difference, thereby devaluing the value of the dollar. So it makes perfect sense why Kamala Harris would choose to propose this new plan to try to combat the inflation that her administration has caused. But it goes to show you that it's actually right on brand with Kamala Harris herself. Her own father was a Marxist economist, and it's well known that communism is very much downstream from Marxism. So individuals who don't understand that basic concept, I don't know what it's going to take to help you realize that, but just know that federal price controls sound very good, but honestly have been disastrous every time they've been tried.
You look at Trump, and he's rolling out his policies and doing all these press conferences, try to take some of this steam away from the Democrats. When they're going to announce something, they have a rally. Trump is out there meeting with reporters, taking questions for 45 minutes. But you compare these two simple agendas, and it took forever for her to actually come out and bring this agenda. Your thoughts on whether or not this would work?
Kamala Harris's honeymoon is now officially over. When the Washington Post comes out and calls her economic plan a gimmick, when former Obama top economic advisor also says it's not the right answer, you know it's bad when they can't even get the Washington Post or the former Obama advisor to get on board with this. Look, the American people know Kamala Harris is right. It's about the past versus the future. And in the past, things were affordable. Gas was cheap. The world was not at war. The border was secure. And what we already showed in the past, we can do again in the future. We do not have to go to her Soviet communist government price controls and free handouts for money to offset the fact that people can't afford to buy their first home because of Kamala inflation Bidenomics.
Just to start the conversation here, do any of you guys think that the economy was better off under the Trump administration compared to the Biden-Harris one that we have right now? Because we're hearing from the VP herself that she's going to do the right thing for the American people, even though her policies are extreme and they could result in our country suffering even more financially. But I also have to restate this. She's saying she's going to do the right thing for the American people, meaning she has not been doing the right thing for the American people because she's already in office right now. She may have forgotten since she doesn't really show up for work and she's constantly drinking. And many people say that Donald Trump made it very clear that this was just lip service from Kamala and that voting for Harris will do nothing for the American people.
Harris has just declared that tackling inflation will be a day one priority for her. It's going to be day one. But day one really for Kamala was 3.5 years ago. Where has she been? And why hasn't she done it? Why hasn't she done it? I hear her complaining all the time. She was the border czar, but she didn't do anything. It's the worst border czar in history. There's never been a border czar so bad.
And this is the messaging that we're seeing from the Harris campaign, as if they want us to forget that she's been the vice president of the United States for like the last almost 4 years, and that she's been in power but let all of these problems grow under their noses. And hey guys, before we continue, please take a second, hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys, and also thank you so much for sharing this video on Facebook and Twitter and subscribing to the channel. You guys are the best. But now we're being told that she needs to be the president in order to fix the problems that they started during their term. I really think Grant Cardone explained it perfectly right here when he was asked about the economic policies put forth by the VP.
How will we afford this? $25,000 if you're a first-time homeowner. We're going to pay for all illegals that come across our border, their health care. We're going to make everyone pay into this, into a single system health care. How will we afford this? Plus, they're paying for college tuition.
Yeah, Ainsley, look, Kamala Harris is either financially illiterate or she believes her audience is. This is called come on marketing. The $25,000 credit is a come on. It will not happen. The $6,000 child credit requires you to have 2 kids in the same year. That's a come on. The 4 million homes that she came out with yesterday in 4 years is absolutely impossible in this country. And to control prices is a come on. This is a marketing strategy, a gimmick where there's a promise of an offer that cannot be delivered at scale. It's typically used as a bait and switch, some kind of offer that exaggerates, that has hidden costs, exaggerated claims. And Kamala Harris is the come on queen now. That should be her new title.
And many economists agree with his take that this was all just for show and that when it comes to it, little or nothing will likely be done to fulfill any of these promises. They're just trying to get your vote. And then they'll just straight up turn around and do something else. And then when that happens, who are they going to blame? Donald J. Trump and MAGA Republicans? That's pretty much been the narrative for like the last 4 years, guys. They said it about the economy and they've continued to blame Trump for the border crisis, a crisis that became worse under their term. But even with all that, Harris is pushing that Trump is not going to do what's right for the American people. Here she is right here blasting what she believes to be the former president's economic plan.
Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. A Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on food, a Trump tax on clothing, a Trump tax on over-the-counter medication. And you know, economists have done the math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year. At this moment, when everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher.
Now, there's so many who don't believe what Harris is talking about here. The fact is that more Americans trust Trump with the economy, period, point blank. And that was right at the cusp of a global pandemic, which reminds me of something. I did a previous video, guys, where I talk about the possibility of lockdowns 2.0 and mandates to make a comeback right before the 2024 presidential election. Guys, we got to get ready. We got to be on our toes. We got to pay attention. Make sure you check that video out right after this one. Click on my channel, go to videos, check that video out. But this is now being talked about on a global scale. So anyway, make sure you guys check that video out right after this one. As always, appreciate you guys keeping informed here. Thank you for hitting the like button, sharing this video, and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.